Scott Spears, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Scott Spears Now. In this episode, we tackle a hot topic as of late, certainly in the last 7 to 10 days here in the United States, that of TV chef Paula Deen admitting that she has used the N-word in a deposition she gave for an upcoming court case. Paula Deen has certainly suffered a lot of fallout from this revelation, accusation, whatever you want to call it. Backers have pulled out of Paula Deen's companies, that being Sears, Kmart, Walmart, Target. A lot of people have left her. A book, an upcoming book that she had set to come out in the fall, has now been canceled or at least postponed. And the network that she did all her programs on, Food Network, has decided not to renew her contract. This has brung up a very interesting discussion in this country on race, which we tend to have from time to time. What is okay, what is not okay, when can a person use a word, when can a person not use a word. It's a fascinating discussion to have, and we're going to have it with a guy I have a whole lot of respect for, a many-time guest to this program, a very, very smart man, Emmy Award-winning actor, Robert Guillaume. Robert, take it away. This is Scott Spears. And a news story that is dominating the headlines as of late is that of TV chef Paula Deen. The story goes as follows. Lisa Jackson, a former employee of restaurants owned by Deens, filed a lawsuit alleging racial and sexual discrimination. Deen stated in her deposition that she has used the N-word at times. Deen said she used the word when a black man entered a bank that she was working at and put a gun to her head. Deen also described in her deposition wedding plans for her brother with a, and this is a direct quote, a true Southern plantation-style theme. As a result, Food Network has not renewed Miss Deen's contract, and sponsors such as Walmart, Target, QVC, Sears, and Kmart say they will no longer carry her product, and others are jumping on board as we go. And as I heard right before we went on the air, her book that was scheduled to come out this fall has been postponed at this time. Joining us today to help sort all this out is Emmy Award winner, good friend of this program's legendary actor, Robert Guillaume. Mr. Guillaume, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Scott, and you?
Doing very well. You're looking well as always.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry about your eyesight.
I tell you, Mr. Guillaume, this is a story that has really dominated the headlines, certainly the last 7 to 10 days. What's your read on the whole Paula Deen situation?
Well, at the outset, I'd like to say I had enough of it. I've had enough of it. I think there's a period of time when something like this happens, that there's a small window to get in licks before you enter the area of just pillaring someone for the sake of stoning them. To me, I'm very soft-hearted about people and how they get themselves into problems like this. There seems to be little doubt that she in some way brought this on herself for following a certain lifestyle that she'd never perhaps examined, and that it could very easily be a sensitive area in which she would not want to be ensnared, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But my sentiment lies in the fact I'm very, as I said before, I'm very sensitive about people having their livelihood taken away from them because they made a stupid mistake.
What I have found very interesting about this, Robert, is that Nobody has footage of her saying this word. She doesn't deny saying it, but the footage, there is nothing like that. This all came from a deposition that somebody got a hold of. Is it horrible? Because technically, she did what she was supposed to do. She told the truth in a deposition. Mm-hmm. She could have lied and saved herself a lot of trouble. Do we punish people for telling the truth?
Well, we would say it's not our intent. They brought it on themselves. I think that would be the overwhelming sentiment in the country. But I think we also have to understand, however, that Paula Deen is a product of a very controversial time in her life. It seems that certain things that she may have thought were just, playing around, may not meaning anything. I don't know whether that's the case or not. But she got herself in trouble over something that she considers is just every day. And I didn't mean anything by it. I did it sort of absent-mindedly, which I might believe. But I do not want to be one of those people who pillories her for the past sins of this country.
If you were in a room in 2013 and heard somebody say this word, what would be your reaction?
Well, first of all, I don't know that I like to give people the power to have power over me and my reaction. So I've long since banished my reason for going to personal war about that term. I certainly do not advocate that one continue to use it. But I must say that it was used against me in a couple of instances that did not make me happy. Mm. Both in my own neighborhood and as I went to school, as I went to higher education in St. Louis, Missouri.
As an African American man, Robert, I would not know, and I think most Caucasians, no Caucasians would know this, and maybe even younger African American men would not know this. What is the connotation behind that word when you hear it?
When I take a historical view of the usage of the term, it goes without saying I'm brought back to slavery. And it's not a pleasant idea. It was used, I suppose, by, I guess I don't have to give a history of how it was used. Not that I know it all that specifically. But it's not a happy time for African Americans.
Is this word able to be obliterated? Because there was a time when you could say that word on television in writing. Now I've heard it bleeped recently.
Yeah, I don't know what you can do with a word that is in such common usage. I suppose we should all militate against the word, however. and try to expunge it from our youth. Go on.
A great deal of this story, Robert, from what I've been hearing in rooms and gatherings, is who can use it and who can't. And the people who disagree with her seem to be of the mind that there is a certain group that can say this word and get away with it. Musicians, rappers, certain people. The group that supports her seems to say that if it's okay for them to say it, then why can't she say it? What's the reasoning by that?
Well, sometimes I think we don't understand. We as citizens of this country, all of us, I don't think we understand that whether we like it or not, we're simply one large community. And what goes around comes around. And things bite us in the behind that we thought were all right. But the idea I want to get across is that it's one big community, whether it looks like it or not, whether one feels that or not. It is one big community, and we trade ideas.
There is this thought that if, for example, Kanye West had said this would not be a news story. If Paula Deen says it, it is a news story. Should Kanye West, in your opinion, be able to say this?
No, I would expect him to be more informed. That's my opinion. And I suppose, I remember one time I was working in the Catskills, which, as you know, is at the time, it was a region in upstate New York, as they called it, where there were a lot of Jewish hotels, and as a result, there was a lot of entertainment there. And once again, because it's just a community, and we trade back and forth, I remember I got into trouble because I wanted to tell a joke one time. And I thought that the people liked me so much that I could tell the joke with impunity. I soon found out that I couldn't, because a lot of people assumed that I was being disrespectful. And I thought that I was doing it out of, hey, look how much I know. And see, I'm on your side, etc., whatever I thought. But I was soon made aware that I could not say this joke. I've forgotten what the joke was. And it made some sense to me at the time that I perhaps should not be able to say it, even though I meant nothing by it.
You know, Mr. Guillaume, when this happened, I have to tell you, honestly, and I'm glad we're getting to do this interview because of this, one of the first people that I wanted to talk to about this was you, for this reason. Because I've heard you in interviews say this, and I read your great book, and I hope people can get this, Guillaume. It's a great book. If you can find it somewhere, pick it up. But you talk so much about parts that you did not want to take coming up in your career. And coming on to soap, the idea that you were going to play this, maybe what people would assumed as a butler before it was pitched, was a role that African Americans had been letted down with for a long time.
They'd had enough of it.
Yeah, had enough, but you took it and turned it on its ear. Is there ever a way to turn this word on its ear, because now I see a lot of people and you really, I mean, no hedging, you set the watermark for this, of the African American playing the butler but being smarter than the household. I see that a lot now, that scenario. Can this word, this hateful word, and it is, ever be turned around? Because I don't think it's ever going to leave the vernacular.
I think you're right, Scott. I don't think it's going to leave the vernacular either. And perhaps some smart guy down the line somewhere will find a way to use the word or use something that turns it on, that overturns it.
Should Paula Deen be losing what she's losing for saying this?
As I said from the beginning, I'm uncomfortable with the fact that we pillory each other anytime we find someone who's a human being and subject to all the miscalculations that we are, and someone oversteps a boundary line that he didn't know he was doing, we love to pile on. That seems to be our great mission in life. There's a guy over there who's still swimming. Let's all go over and make him drown.
Do you have a good reason why we are that way? I mean, we started off this interview saying, you know, you'd heard enough of it. I think I have too. We still have to talk about it because it won't go away. Why are we like that as a society? Why do we harp on this?
Well, I think I think it's probably true in the animal kingdom in some fashion or other. But I think that if we call ourselves a Christian society, ready to forgive, I think the first place that it should be practiced is in those corporations that hired her in the first place. I don't feel that they should get off scot-free, if you pardon the pun.
I will in this case. Something interesting I heard from Whoopi Goldberg this week. I saw a clip of her, and she said it wasn't so much that the word bothered her, although it did. It was this whole idea of this plantation-style wedding. Does that? How do you feel about that? That is a strange comment to make.
Well, you know, the one thing that we lack in our makeup, at least here in America, is we cannot bring any kind of humor to the whole race situation, because somebody's going to take what you say and call you out about it when you perhaps or possibly meant nothing. And we have not been able to bring any humor to our age-old confrontations.
The question is, will Paula Deen be able to have humor and recover from this? Because continuously she's losing ground all the time.
Oh, I don't know whether she can have humor in her reaction to it. It's probably very, very painful to her.
Do you think?
And the fact that I perhaps may even get pilloried for not coming down hard on her about this.
Can she come back?
Oh, I think so.
We're forgiving. I'm going to make, yeah. I'm going to make a comparison here to wrap this up, and I may take heat for this, but we'll do it. When Paula Deen says this horrible word, she goes under the bus for it. There's no doubt about it. President Obama, because it's an interesting time, the one we live in, when people are questioning his birth, and they still do it to this day, we just don't hear as much about it, I think. Is that to an African American person just as offensive?
I didn't get the question.
Is saying that word, which we have heard for so long, as offensive as the people who go out and make these claims against President Obama and his birthright? Is that offensive in a...
Well,
yeah.
it's another facet of a kind of racism that we are so knee-jerk responsible for in such a knee-jerk way. And I think that given where Paula Deen was raised, nobody would remind her, hey, you can't say that, among her peers there. So she probably was unaware that it carried all this kind of stigma. She certainly can't be expected to know or feel as much about the word as I. I think it is an insult of the highest order. But
Robert, as time goes on, are we ever going to get to a place where this type of stuff doesn't happen? Will there ever be a time when we're all in the same boat?
Well, we are all in the same boat.
Will we feel like we're all in the same boat?
Well, we better get smart.
Yeah.
We better get smart.
Do you feel we look for more ways to divide than come together?
What I really feel, Scott, is that we don't work on solving any of these problems. We just react when they come up in such a way that they test our mettle. M-E-T-T-L-E. And, but I think as citizens of a community and a society that always claimed to want to improve the lot of man, and we had a wonderful way of trying to do it. We would bring everyone together, and they would have to get along.
Yeah.
We're still a wonderful people.
I think you're right. And let me part on this one, Mr. Guillaume, because I'm not sure. It's a strange world to live in. If I had been, as I did in the beginning of this interview, if I had started and was reading what had happened, if I, instead of saying N-word, had said the word, which I would never do, it personally makes me uncomfortable. But if I had said it in a quote, is that as bad?
No, as long as I can tell.
Yeah.
That you were saying it editorially.
There was a discussion of this a while back. Barbara Walters had said it in a quote, and she took a little bit of heat for it because people didn't like her saying it.
Well, that's the thing I was trying to tell you about being in the Catskills.
Yeah.
People, I like that word pilloried. I'm not sure everyone knows what it means. I barely know what it means. I'm in the habit of using a lot of words. I don't know what the hell they mean. And most people don't call me on it, and I thank God for that. But I think we really do have to use if we care about our society and our communities, if we care. If we don't care, yeah, well, don't do anything. But if we care, as much as we say we do, it's time to practice a little Christianity.
I would have to agree with you, and it's been a fascinating discussion, Robert, and it always is with you, no matter what we're talking about, but particularly this, because, and I've said this in radio interviews before, and I'll say it again for people who maybe didn't listen to them. What you truly did, and I know a lot of people get credit for it, and I hope you do from time to time as well, but it seems to me it's not as much in the forefront. The way you spoke and the way you walked in the late 1970s to walk into people's homes and be that character of Benson and be smarter than the room, it changed things. I mean, this is, I said it once, you know, the Jeffersons were on before Benson came on the air, but the Jeffersons still had a little bit of, they didn't talk as well as Benson. They weren't the smartest people in the room all the time. Benson was never anybody's fool. And that meant something. That meant something when there were 3 channels and you're on a top 20 show. That means something for a lot of people watching that. And that's before Bill Cosby. So that's just the way it is.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Guillaume, always a pleasure. You stay well, and I'm sure we will do this again. I hope we will.
Okay, Scott. Thank you very much. Nice talking to you.
You as well. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this episode of Scott Spears Now. This topic is going to go on and on and on long after the days of Paula Deen. It is just something maybe we're going to have to deal with, talk more about. Maybe it's never ending. I don't know. I hope, though, one day we will be able to get past it and people will get smart and we'll do what we have to do. But until next time, this is Scott Spears, headed for the dugout.